Hello, BookTube. I'm back, and I have 4 more books plucked straight from the day's mail. So I thought we'd get right into them. It's a pretty good batch this time around. The first one is one that never fails to please. It's the 33rd Annual Year's Best Science Fiction by Gardner Dozois. Look at that beautiful cover. I try to follow science fiction in periodicals throughout the year. Clark's World and the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction and Asimov's Science Fiction and Analog. I read them. I try to keep an eye out for the stories that are particularly good, that stand out, and that might end up in this collection. Of course, Dozois, he ranges a lot further than that and gives you a 700-page brick of great new science fiction every single year. It's 33 years he's been doing this. That's an incredible accomplishment. So I greatly look forward to it. Second one is What Elephants Know by Eric Dinerstein. And the plot is fairly quickly summarized. It's abandoned in the jungles of the Nepalese borderlands. 2-year-old Nandu is found living under the protective watch of a pack of wild dogs. From his mysterious beginnings, fate delivers him to the king's elephant stable, where he is raised by an unlikely parents, the wise head of the stable, and Devi Kali, the fierce, affectionate female elephant. When the king's government threatens to close the stable, Nandu, now 12, searches for a way to save his family and community. A risky plan could be the answer, but to succeed, they'll need a great tusker. The future is in Nandu's hands as he sets out to find a bull elephant and bring him back to the borderlands. You can hear right away that how much that owes to one of my favorite books of all time, The Jungle Books of Rudyard Kipling. But in a way, even more remarkable than the plot is the author's biography. Eric Dinerstein attended Northwestern University and Western Washington University and did his graduate studies in wildlife science. He is Director of Biodiversity and Wildlife Solutions at Resolve, where he devotes his time to conservation of wild populations of elephants, rhinos, tigers, and other endangered species. He was previously Chief Scientist and Vice President for Conservation Science at the World Wildlife Fund for nearly 25 years. He began researching tigers in Nepal in 1975 as a Peace Corps volunteer. He later continued field work in the region, studying rhinos and tigers for the Smithsonian Institution. So either this is going to be a fantastic novel, or this is going to be a midlife crisis by a crusader whose energies are best spent elsewhere. But either way, the thing comes with a blurb from Ian Douglas Hamilton, who is the godfather of wild elephants in Africa. Comes with a blurb from David Quammen, who I've mentioned on this channel before, is a great natural history writer. And it comes with a blurb from Jane Goodall. So, no pressure or anything as a reviewer. We'll see. We'll see what it's like. Our next one is Who Rules the World by Noam Chomsky. This is from Metropolitan Books. I will read it with interest, of course. Chomsky has been annoying me for half a century, mainly for his intellectual hypocrisy, because he has been maintaining for all that time that you have the worldview of a juvenile if you think that no powerful state, especially a state as powerful as the United States, ever does anything wrong. He's maintained that on TV and radio and lectures forever, that you're a child if you think that no nation as powerful as the United States ever does anything wrong. And I've always wanted to say to him, if I could ever get him alone on a street in Cambridge, that it's equally childish to say that any government as powerful as the United States never does anything good, which is exactly what he's been saying for half a century. That if there's a thing that happens in the world, the United States is the bad guy. So I don't imagine, he's 200 years old, so I don't imagine this book will be any different in that ideological underpinning, but we'll see. I could be wrong. I'll certainly read it. You have to read Noam Chomsky. And our last one for today is The 50-Year Mission, Volume 1. This is a gigantic oral history of Star Trek, concentrating on the original show and the original cast movies. And it's a collection of quick interviews on many different subjects, spanning hundreds of pages, with all the people who were there and involved. I have been a fan of the original Star Trek from the very beginning. And when it was still on the air, I was crammed into tiny hotel rooms with a dozen other people long before we even thought to call them conventions. I dreamed in the years when it was off the air of its return. I dutifully watched every movie and rewatched every episode a million times. So, of course, and this is the 50th year anniversary of that, the appearance of that show, so I will gobble this right up, despite the fact that its forward is by Seth MacFarlane. I know he's big with a certain demographic, but I thought I would, painful as it is, that I would read you just a bit of what he writes. When I watched Star Trek as a child, this is the original show he's talking about, the moral guidelines it advocated were not lost on me. It meant something that those phases were almost always set to stun, and that the crew never killed unless they had no other choice. Life was presented as precious, and while I love the shoot-'em-up action of Star Wars as much as the rest of my generation, it's Star Trek I thank for the fact that when I find a spider in my house, I am morally obliged to put it outside rather than disposing of it. All life is precious. Message received, Gene. Meaning Gene Roddenberry there, the creator of Star Trek. And that little passage is stellar proof, if you needed any, of how widespread the cocaine culture is in Hollywood. If you know anything about the work of Seth MacFarlane, anything he's ever written, anything he's ever directed, anything he's ever starred in, including his last Hollywood movie, you tell me if you think that you've ever got the impression from any of that life was precious. That you ever got the impression from any of that the creator of those visions, which is all that Roddenberry was doing, he wasn't saying that you don't kill spiders in your home. He was saying, I'm going to make a presentation for the world that says life is precious. You tell me if you think that message is in any of the presentations that Seth MacFarlane has ever given to the world. But he's a name, and the producers of the book, this is produced by St. Martin's, comes out in June. They probably wanted somebody young, somebody younger than 100 to do the forward for this book. I can't help but think that if they tried a little harder, they could have found somebody not quite as much of a moron, who might also have a big name to him. For instance, Robert Downey Jr., self-confessed Star Trek fan. But anyway, this will also go high on the list of reading to do, because I have been doting on Star Trek it seems unbelievable that it's 50 years. And that's it. Those are our 4 books for today, fresh out of the mail pile. I hope any of them seemed interesting to you. Of course, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.